Hey, friends, welcome back to the Do Cool Shit podcast. I'm Meryl and I'm here solo today. And today is going to be a shorter episode to listen to, but as always, aiming for it to be hard hitting. And this is something that's been on my mind and something that became very present in the past week in this kind of full circle moment. So I wanted to talk about it. And this is a topic that I would say everyone says they want to have. And it's also something that I find a lot of people feel like they're constantly chasing it and not really sure how to get it. And there's a lot of mismanaged expectations maybe around it and a lot of lack of clarity in maybe what this even is. The topic is happiness. And this is something where I know I personally used to think that happiness was something that maybe I would arrive at. It was something that I would get from certain achievements, like finally hitting a certain weight on the scale, or what my body looked like, or a certain amount of weight that I would lift, like hitting a certain number deadlift or squat or something like that. When I finally made a certain amount of money or got recognized for certain achievements, then I would just be happy. Where, yeah, I mean, those things made me happy, but I had this feeling that I would just be happy and stay there, and I couldn't have happiness on my way to these things. And this is where, again, I have a lot of conversations around happiness with clients where it's kind of this either or situation, and happiness can't be there if certain things aren't being done. Or even people who the on paper things look really good. They're doing the workouts, they're eating well, they're achieving things, and they still don't feel like they thought they would. So I had a really cool experience in the past week that drove me to want to do this episode. But first, I'm going to rewind a couple years and kind of start from the beginning. So, a few years ago, I hired a new business mentor. And this was after a few years into doing a lot more deep personal work with growth and self exploration and expanding how I thought and how I showed up. But he had asked me, and this was Paul O'Neid, for those who are wondering, and Curtis and I mentioned him a number of times on the last episode because we met in that mentorship group, and I've had Paul on the podcast before as well. But he had just asked a very simple question in the onboarding form that I had for the mentorship. And he just simply asked, "Are you happy?" And I went back and I found what my actual response was. So I'm going to read that to you now. My response was, most of the time, I guess this all depends on the definition of happy. I'm a feeler and a very heart centered person. So those things could definitely sway me sometimes in my mood. And I can also recognize this. I can be very hard on myself, and I also have a growth mindset and use that to push myself forward. I have support and love around me and know that I create the life I want. I can usually find the positive in situations and can always find something to be grateful for. So, from my answer, you can kind of see that my thought of happiness and what I thought it was evolved from where I used to be in it. And it was still kind of unclear. I had uncertainty in what happiness actually is. And what he shared with me next really changed how I view happiness and honestly how I live my life and feel like in my life every day. And it's changed how I support people that I work with on the coaching side. Because again, happiness isn't a state you arrive at. It's not this constant emotional high. It's not the absence of hard feelings. What he said to me was happiness to me is being engaged in a meaningful pursuit towards a goal that continues to evolve as we do. It's having purpose. And that was something that, again, just really made me think and change how I viewed what happiness is. It's it's being engaged in meaningful pursuit, being engaged in things that matter to you, being engaged in things or something that evolves as you evolve. It's purpose, it's direction, it's how you're showing up along the way. And this is where so many people get stuck, especially in health and fitness. Again, I was in that place myself and it was not very happy. I'll tell you that. I did feel like I was constantly chasing it because I was attaching happiness to outcomes. And a lot of people still view it in this way. And hopefully you will not after listening to this episode. Having thoughts of, I'll be happy when I lose the weight, when I look a certain way, when I hit a number, when people notice me. And when those things happen, happiness may be there, joy may be there, and the feeling certainly doesn't just stay that way. It's not an arrival point because those are experiences. It's not a permanent state. That's not the reality of life. And I want to bring this for full circle now, where last week I went to an event. This was my third year going to in Las Vegas, which, by the way, I joke about that I was probably the most boring person in Vegas because I did no stereotypical traditional type of Vegas things. Like, I did not drink, I did not gamble, I didn't go to any shows, I didn't even stay up late. But I went to the Real Coaches Summit, which is a great event. Again, this is my third year going, and I'm about to buy my tickets for the fourth year next year. And this was an event, it always is, that's filled with great people. There's amazing education, amazing networking opportunities. And this past year, that same mentor and his awesome wife, Olivia, who was also on the podcast, they were there for the event. And this was the first time that I got to meet Paul and Olivia in person. I've known them both for a few years, like online and via Zoom and all the things. And we got to meet and hang out and have really awesome discussions in person. And one night at dinner, and I was sitting with them and I believe four other people who are all people that I deeply respect and are doing a lot of cool shit. And we had a conversation where the topic of happiness came up again. And this was a, a really cool, like it was kind of one of those glimmers where I took a pause afterwards and I was like, wow. But we talked about how happiness can exist with discomfort and how we can feel things like frustration or disappointment or sadness or be in challenge and still be happy. And that used to feel contradictory to me. And maybe if you're listening to this, that's how you were kind of operating previously as well. Like it had to be one or the other. If you're sad, then you can't be happy. If you're in challenge, then you can't be happy. If you're frustrated or disappointed, contented. You can't be happy. And that is so far from the truth. When you can zoom out and you can think about what you're pursuing, and if you're pursuing something meaningful, growth and change and evolving yourself, discomfort is part of that. And if happiness is tied to meaningful pursuit, then discomfort isn't the opposite of happiness. It's actually part of it. So that's a huge perspective shift. Discomfort that is being felt. It's not something going wrong. It might actually be something going right. And it's just a different way of viewing happiness and having happiness all the time. So if you've been feeling things or thinking things like, I should be happier than I am, or why doesn't this feel like enough, or I just want to be happy, and being kind of unsure and feeling like you're chasing it, then ask yourself, what am I actually chasing? What do I think happiness is supposed to feel like? And am I overlooking it because it doesn't look how I expected? Instead of asking, am I happy? You can try asking yourself, am I engaged in something meaningful to me? Am I showing up in a way I'm proud of? Am I growing? And I'd say, especially if you're feeling uncomfortable, then you are growing. Because I've said this time and time again, and I just had multiple conversations with clients in the past 24 hours around growth and the things that they're doing, and how, they're filled with uncomfortable feelings and maybe even thoughts of like self-doubt or stuff like that. But when we zoom out, they're doing the things that lead to them actually following through, actually being the people they want to be, actually accomplishing certain things, and being aligned with their values. So when you ask yourself those questions, that's where happiness actually lives. Happiness isn't something you unlock at the end of something. It's not somewhere you arrive at. It's not just one thing or the other. Multiple things can be true at once. You can feel multiple things at once. It's something you experience through how you live. And the kind of wild part a lot of the time is that the life you're building already includes it. You just might be missing it because you're expecting it to feel a different way, or you're defining it as something different. So I hope that this was helpful for you. And, and I hope it was as helpful for you in thinking about as it was for me, because it's really freaking cool to know at the end of the day and kind of check in with yourself that, no matter what came up during the day or what uncomfortable feelings were present, or if you're in the midst of things that feel really, really challenging, that there's purpose and there's meaning to being in those places, and that happiness is interwoven into these things. And it's something that you already have. It's something that I know I already have. And that reminder alone in those challenging times can be a big difference. So if if this did hit for you, then send it to someone who's maybe needing the little reminder or call out as well, or share it or tag me. I'd love to hear what shifts may have happened or what stands out to you. And as always, I want this to be something that leads to you doing cool shit. So please, please, please think about how you can apply this in your life in the next week because cool shit is on the other side of doing. And I will talk with you next time.